Hey, let's take a break from doing mock drafts. We can do one to see how many picks we can get. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different scenarios. You guys know most of them, but let's just take a break from that. And I think it's a little wiser to actually look at some players that are actually worth strategizing to get. And there's one player I see that checks three boxes: a position of need, a perfect scheme fit, and a value for the draft capital that we have to spend. And I'm not finding many better fits outside of the first round than Darius Robinson out of Missouri. Let's take a look at him and also what it might cost us to get him. So let's go here. I think there's one guarantee here. The Bears will definitely end up with more picks in this draft than they came with. Robinson, in my eyes, he should be a top priority. This would involve trading in a way, gives us a mid-second round pick as his Senior Bowl performance pushed up his stock, and deservedly so. And he might be the biggest winner from the Senior Bowl. He profiles as an absolute athletic freak, 6'5", 290 pounds, and something that you just can't coach. 35-inch arms. He dominated almost every drill in the combine. That's going to likely push him into the high second, even the late first. But the pipe dream of us using a third rounder, that might just not happen. I don't think it's possible anymore. So a trade scenario that we go through has to include getting a second round pick. And you guys know that is totally possible. And we've talked about it. Also, we had a huge coaching presence there at the Senior Bowl. That's a unique advantage that we once again have gotten, and it's likely he's high up on a draft board already. That's due to our coaches actually being able to work him out in real time in practices and to spend time with him in the film room, and we just have a head start here. There's a sports mockery story. These guys just do amazing work. I always want to give them credit, and they brought forward a really interesting point, and that's in that GM Ryan Poles, he has the final say, but he greatly values the input of his coaches, right? It's been very clear they have a voice, and one reason that Flus is still there, in my opinion, it's because Poles really values and trusts his take on defensive players when it comes to picking the right one. And if Flus loves a player on defense, Poles, he's likely going to hear him out. Let's look at a case in point. Last year, Flus absolutely pounded the table for Tremaine Edmonds, last offseason. It's documented. Flus was a huge proponent of getting him. We got him the second that free agency started. He insisted he'd be a key to a resurgent defense, and he was right. Our results, partially due to Tremaine Edmonds, was that we moved from 29th defensively to 12th overall. Edmonds, he responded with an incredible year. He had 113 tackles and a career high 4 picks. I mean, it's a bit of conjecture, but there isn't really a more obvious guy that fits the Coach Flus mold than Robinson. Let's look at his stats from last year. They were nice. In 12 games, 43 tackles, 14 tackles for a loss, and 8.5 sacks. The thing that most people don't notice, though, all of these sacks came in the last 9 games of the season. He was ascending, and he continued to dominate more and more as the year went on. And that's such a great pull. That's such a great stat that was pulled. Thanks to the guys at Sports Mockery for that. Like, once again, they just do such good work. Such a good source. And let's look at him as well. He has such an unusual combo of quickness, length, size, and power. Once again, 35-inch arms, 6'5", about 290. And he even has a change of pace direction that gives him the ability to even be problematic on stunts. I mean, versatility is there. He's not just a one-trick pony. And in Robinson's time with Missouri, he actually moved all around, whether he was a 3-tech, a 5-tech, a 6-tech. Robinson was a force. Versatility, that's an attractive quality, especially on a defense like ours that we don't have a lot of cemented players. I mean, Montez Sweat, he's probably the only sure starter on our defensive line. I mean, we've got Gervon Dexter really coming on, but the rest of the players can rotate rather interchangeably in this defense. And he fits the mold. Robinson is especially a player that can just come in and come out, play several positions, but he's most valuable as a 5-tech. He's also not a plug-in who's simply made into a force because Montez Sweat is there. I mean, I think this guy could develop into a dominant player in his own right, independent of that. So also, let's look at the profile of guys that Flus has succeeded with in the past, right? In Indy, he had Autry. He was 6'5", 285, really similar athletic profile. DeForest Buckner, you guys know him. He was an absolute stud, 6'7", 295. He hit all the main athletic comparisons that this draftee is hitting. And he also had 16 and a half sacks and 44 quarterback hits in 2 seasons. That's what Buckner did with Flus as his coach. Now we've got Sweat. 6'6", 262, and we all know what he did last season. So they are completely valid comparisons. Once again, Robinson will likely make his money in the league as a 5-tech. He can do it all, actually. We've covered that. But that bodes really well for us. We run a 4-3 defense that fits in perfectly. So picture this. Montez Sweat on one side, Darius Robinson on the other. That would be a match made in heaven, right? It looks really good, and I think we just need to get this done. The Bears, we lack pass rushers outside of the recently acquired Sweat. So grabbing one earlier in the draft, it's something the Bears could certainly benefit from. I think it's just foolish financially to spring for a top defensive end in free agency and all that expense and having so much money tied into our defensive ends. It's just not wise. Let's just find a way to draft this guy. And other positions could be at place. I fully endorse trading our number 1, going wide receiver and the best offensive lineman possible in the first round, and in our trade deals, acquiring a 2nd-round pick to draft Robinson. I mean, given how lackluster Coach Flus's pass rush has been with the Bears outside of Sweat, it could be a perfect time to get this stud at the position. Like, let's just get it done. And the Chicago Bears are also big fans of the Senior Bowl as well. I've covered that. That gives Robinson's performance a bit more weight. Polls, he used his first 4 picks in the 2023 draft on Senior Bowl players. So just a thought to keep in mind as well. Granted, most of the top prospects are there anyway, so it makes sense. But still, it's just something to keep in mind. It just adds a little more weight. In the interchangeability, that's what really stands out in his game, as well as how freakishly athletic he is. In every rep during the Senior Bowl practices, he made noise. And there's also been some names tossed out for who Darius Robinson compares to in the NFL. This isn't said lightly. I mean, J.J. Watt is one of them that have been tossed around for comparison. You know, the future Hall of Famer, not a bad comp, right? So far, Senior Bowl, Darius Robinson, he stole the show as far as defensive linemen are concerned. And for a team like the Chicago Bears, a team trying to build up their trenches like the Chicago Bears are, it's likely that they have their eyes all over Robinson. It's likely he is high up on their draft board. And whether or not he's a Chicago Bear in the future, I mean, that will come out in the wash. But I think it is very probable that we're going to call his name during the draft. And Coach Flus is going to pound the table for him. He checks absolutely every box, and he would be a perfect fit and also at an economical price. I mean, I think it's a pipe dream. It's a prayer that he might fall to the 3rd round. I think that's absolutely ridiculous at this point. But as part of our trade packages for that number 1, as we even explore trading up or down with that number 9 pick that we have, I think it is fully within the realm of possibilities and something that we absolutely should do. Get in the deal a 2nd-round pick and spend it on Robinson. I also don't want to be without a 2nd-round pick here either, because I think that's the main value in the draft, and Robinson is the perfect example of that. So I'm sure you guys will comment. I just asked that we keep it respectable, we keep it fun. I love chopping it up in the comments with you guys, and you have been such loyal watchers, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And bear down. Let's continue to enjoy this off season, and we're almost to the draft. See ya.